Skaka. While everyone is concerned about the coronavirus, I am mourning the death of Gordon Bowden, which took place February 20th of this year. Didn't know about it until yesterday. How did I find out about it? I was watching Brendon O'Connell after you know what these global pandemic dealios now do air these events, any significant event like of this proportion, you start doing a trip through memory lane from all your rabbit holing, conspiracy theory analysis, blah blah blah. Brendon O'Connell popped into my head. Looked him up, saw one of his clips. He's still alive and kicking. And then in the comments upon comments, I was like, it's all about Gordon Bowden. And then I looked him up. I'm like, well, what's Gordon Bowden up to lately? And then I found out he passed away back in February. Very sad. What was I telling? Boundary hacker, anonymous boundary hacker about primary sources, secondary sources, being able to differentiate between the two and why you give a primary source the quote unquote benefit of the doubt in the sense that they're bearing witness to an event, that's what makes them a primary source, right? Whereas a secondary source is just someone reporting, so they don't really have as much leeway because they should just be able to produce all of their sources, to back up, their information versus the primary source being experiential and whatnot, strength, recovery, hope. Hey, shout out to all the friends of Bill and Lois out there. I know y'all love me. So, in this woping that's writing once, posting everywhere, not happening at the moment, but theoretically speaking, I just thought I would, besides talking about Gordon Bowden, who apparently died from just, poor diet, is what one of his former colleagues slash ex colleagues was talking about on YouTube, and that you could believe it. He seemed like a hefty fellow. Mr. Bowden, someone that might be in Overeaters Anonymous or something, or would qualify. Would qualify. Definitely wasn't practicing the program. But can't be talking about Gordon Bowden too much because everyone's like, why aren't you worried about the virus? Which apparently is the disease or something. COVID is short for coronavirus disease. And the actual virus is SARS. And then people are like, what? And then you look it up and it's like, true. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section below. I think I should just ban all comments so I don't have to bother dealing with them. But no one seems to comment so far. So who knows how long all that stuff will take. But yeah, there's nothing proactive in the media. I mean, why aren't they telling people to take a hot bath daily, right? That's, there are solutions being put out there because I hear my parents mention things. And one of the things that came up was basically a steam sauna environment, right? To which I countered, well, what about a hot bath? And that I think would start getting into steam-like conditions, and then just the benefits of putting someone at peace, right? And the way I would incorporate this, shout out to Jeff Skirka, hot shower, cold shower club, is you would start out with a hot bath, really nice and comfortable, and then you just start dumping ice cubes in the bath and then let it become a cold bath that stimulates further the body, the heartbeat, the heart rate, the respiratory system. And this is all about getting that furnace of the body going, to repel infections, right? So I just don't understand this complete paralysis, deer in the headlights attitude of where you're going to shut out bacteria and all these microscopic particles by, this magical 6 feet distance or whatever. but then you're not going to invest any energy, it seems, into exercise and actually just keeping your immune system tip top as much as you can, you know? And so, where is that daily routine? Which hopefully, Leo Kevin Cavazos, I know you're listening to this now because you're also sheltering in place, like the good Amitabha that you are. And I'm hoping Kevin starts up Yoga Tropical daily stream on Zoom. We'll get subscriptions, $7 a pop or whatever, get all the seniors going, start the revolution, and then, yeah, I mean, maybe there will be a silver lining to all of this, right? With the senior center being shut down and whatnot. Kevin could do it. Kevin's very good with seniors, and oh, Rochelle would love it. Rochelle would love it. So, Gordon Bowden, for people who don't know, basically was an investigator on, I think it's 788 Finchley Road or some address on Finchley Road. Okay. Let me back up. He met someone, we would call his partner, basically, I believe his girlfriend. Okay. This is a guy, Gordon Bowden, who was in his like 50s, probably 60s. Okay, and used to be in the Royal Air Force, okay, and I think was a Royal Air Force engineer, like he worked on aircraft, right? He's a Britisher, okay, and then he went into mining. He was a miner, so he experienced that whole world. And however many years later, he met this woman, and she, I guess, was well to do enough to make significant investments, maybe in the tens of thousands, if not excuse me, tens of millions of dollars, okay, whether individually or pooled money. It was a significant amount of money, and it seemed like she was getting swindled. And I guess she made Gordon aware of it, and he took interest in it, and he started investigating it. And what he discovered were what he calls, or what are called, boiler rooms, okay, which is a, what's that term? It's not the literal term of a boiler room, right? It's the phrase. Phraseology. Oh man, I'm losing it, losing the English here. But it became a nickname, boiler room, the nom de guerre for false fronts, for corporations that are pretending to be one thing while in reality are just money laundering, schemes. So these are like basically we're talking about white collar crime. How is white collar crime done? And so at the 788 Finchley Road, or 799 or whatever, something Finchley Road, right? You don't care. You don't even know. You're like, Finchley Road, what is that? Yeah, actual street somewhere in the United Kingdom. But if you go there, there's nothing there, right? So it turns out that there's like thousands of companies registered to this address, and they're basically these fake mining companies. And we're talking people like Tony Blair, Margaret Thatcher's son. Okay, this has to do with nuclear weapons being made for South Africa via Israel and then being exfiltrated from South Africa into like Korea. And you would hear Gordon Bowden talking about this stuff, and your jaws dropping, kind of like when you first heard Kay Griggs. For any Kay Griggs fans, shout outs out there. Kay Griggs said the head of Al-Anon was a lesbian. She's her words, not mine. And neither here nor there, but it kind of is for all the people listening. The rehabs going nutso futso, trying to figure out the Matrix. What's this all about? What's this all about? Kay Griggs asked Jeff Rance. To which Kay Griggs responded, "How far should I go back? Should I go back to Judah P. Benjamin? The Confederate rascal, the Jew." So anyhow, where were we? Gordon Bowden, Finchley Road, and this investigation into all these like very famous, significant people that lied to us about the Iraq War and all that stuff. And at the same time, these people are lying to us. They're bilking it, right? Millions and millions, you know. And so the jaw drops because when you Google these things, because you know, at some point you're just like, this can't be true. I mean, how come I've never heard of any of this stuff? And then you Google it and you find mainstream headlines that match up with the story. And so what you're finally getting is this kind of tapestry. And I think George Webb talks about this, right? Like that journalism, you don't need to go, there's no school, I guess there is a school of journalism, you know, grassroots. What's his name? Former porn director. Oh my God, I'm blanking. He used to write for Breitbart, and now he's George Webb has done some co-interviews with him or whatever, and he has some journalism school. But in general, what is journalism? Okay, you're sifting through headlines. That's all you're doing, right? Or documents. I mean, that's all you're doing. You're just sifting through stuff that's already out there. You're not producing the story, right? Unless it's a psyop, you know, where you're like, you're making the bombs go off and you're reporting about the bombs, right? Which is, there's a whole cottage industry devoted to that as well, right? But in terms of like genuine, authentic journalism, you know, or non-psyop creating journalism, you know what I mean? Like, so even if there is a psyop going on, right? There are like genuine journalists reporting on it in terms of just sifting through the headlines, right? Now, is there a journalist also setting off the bomb? I doubt it, right? So there's kind of too many layers, you know, separating people about. So genuine journalism, anyways, getting a little looped in my head there, but genuine journalism, sifting through all these documents and headlines and trying to weave a narrative together, right? That makes sense, you know. And the beauty in all of this, really, to kind of borrow or maybe steal from the History Channel's Universe series, because it gets really too psyopy halfway in there. But this theory of everything, right? Instead of making it seem like quantum physics is opposed to astrophysics and there's this tension, I would argue that it's more of a kind of dimensional transformation sort of thing, you know, where it's not that there are parallel universes, it's more like we can have multiple thoughts at once, but there is a sort of overall forward versus overall backwards kind of, you know, yin yang thing going on, right? Where as you're investigating things, rabbit holing, red pilling, whatever, right? Trying to figure stuff out. And now with these shut-in days, I guess this is when people have the time. Excuse me. I was watching Political Avenger and she's like, I always have this cough. It's like the times we live in, man, where you're like, you got to be scared about coughing now, right? Oh my God, God forbid you cough in public. They're gonna call the CDC on you or whatever. So, where was I? Where was I? Where was she? Do, 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 do. Yeah, rabbit holing. What do I have up on here in my dry erase? Sutton. Anthony Sutton, another person that passed away that barely anyone knows about, like in the normal world, which is like the non-rabbit holing world, right? So you have to assume, I guess, most people are just playing catch up, catch up, catch up, right? Even if they've heard me talk about these things 100 times, barely any of it sticks, right? Because usually while I'm talking, people are thumbing through their Instagram feeds or Snapchatting or something, right? I mean, who gives you full attention these days? It's rare. It's a rare quality. So, excuse me. Yeah, back to Bowden and K. Griggs and all these wonderful primary sources, secondary sources, what have you, you know, which is, I guess, the holographic layer would be the tertiary source. I think that's a good way of putting it, which I've been trying to reason out to Stoffman. Shout out! Shout out to Stoffman! I think that's his handle on Twitter. I'll try to remain anonymous with the names tonight. I'll try my best. But handles are anonymous, so you can use them, you know, and then people can go figure things out. But yeah, the tertiary source is an objective, truly objective, neutral, you know, third party that's just presenting this matrix to people and saying, here are all the links, you know, here are the narratives, here are the counter narratives, right? And then go pray on it. I mean, go meditate on it, go reflect on it, go whatever, go take a walk on it, you know? Um, yeah. 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 15 minutes in. 15 minutes in. Last Power Ranger, are you there? So, what else was I gonna say to this, or what else would people be wondering about with Kay Griggs and Judah Benjamin and Brendan O'Connell? Joseph Davis, I still love you, man. So, I mean, okay, I think it's worth talking about, right? An antidote, people, Greg McCarran, you know, the hunter of Abby Martin. Abby Martin, your days are numbered. I mean, is Abby Martin going to interview Political Avenger? You know, it's like, talk about white privilege. You know what white privilege really is? And this is anyone's privilege, right? Where you create a narrative in your mind, okay? Like some fictional narrative, something about revolution, or on the other end, individual salvation, whatever, some fantasy about how it's all supposed to be, right? The theory of everything, you know, but very egoistically based, right? And then you go into some, you know, situation, third world country, first world, whatever. You're traveling somewhere, you think you're the authority, right? And then all you're doing is like presenting, you know, investigating or reporting in a way that just totally is a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? So you see Abby Martin down there in Venezuela thinking she's like uncovering whatever, whatever, and it's like, dude, why not talk to Venezuelans who have been through that, right? And Political Avenger is the one that comes to mind, right? She's the only one, but I guess we're far and few between, you know. And only now have I related my like the vision. I think I feel good about it now. The vision came to me with the cold shower, hot shower deal about, you know, I want to be the president of SEIU, and I can say it now. Not today, not tomorrow. You know, when the time's right, no one has to suffer. No heads need be rolled. I'm not the snails from the Ozarks. I ain't no hillbilly. It's like hillbillies versus rednecks. I don't. There's a division there, you know. But no, this fulfills everything. Then I can bring Fichetti into it, and it's like, so Raul, what you're telling me is the workers should get paid in gold and silver? Well, no. What I'm saying is workers, the unions, like, you know, any organization that claims to have the security, health, welfare, dignity, respect of its members in mind, you know, would have a mutual fund, right? And then you can, yeah, why not pool stuff, you know? And then you can, workers can earn in whatever currency they want, right? But there's going to be a central exchange, you know? That's the radical stuff. That's what the unions were originally about until Daniel De Leon came about. I can't help that he was of the Jewish faith. That's just what history bears out. You know, and before people call me, and this is something we can, this is a big third rail, we can get into it later, right? Anti-Jewish bigotry versus anti-Semitism. Now, I'm not anti anything, I'm just pro in general, right? But like, be specific. If you're accusing someone of being an anti-Jewish bigot, then I think it's worth using that phrase. Just like I've heard people, this all came about because I heard the term anti-Muslim, such as such person is an anti-Muslim bigot. And I'm like, yeah, I could see that. I could see that. You know, you can be an anti-blank, anti-anything bigot, right? But when you say anti-Semitic, it's just so confusing because then it's like, wait a minute, they're not the only Semitic. I guess people generally understood, they translate anti-Semitism as you're anti-Jewish, right? Well, here's the deal. Okay, Simeon the Just, Talmud Yoma 69a, check it out. He blessed Alexander the Great. People don't know their Bibles, okay? They don't know they don't know their Catholic Bible, they don't know their King James Version Bible. They just don't know the Bible in general. Okay. Uh, that doesn't seem like a very exciting note to end on, right? People are like, the Bible. Does he want us to go study the Bible? Is that what he wants us to do? Maybe, maybe parts of it, you know, all of it. No, it's worth it. Catholic Bible, though. That's a question, right? Like, why were we using the King James Version Bible in high school, which leaves out Book of Maccabees? And Book of Maccabees is like where you get some very clear historical stuff going on. And yes, the mention of Alexander the Great, which ties in Greece to this whole thing, you know. Yeah, so why was that left out? You know, because that can get a little confusing then for people that are trying to piece this all together, right? Right. Right. Whoop! Whoopin'. Okay, yeah. So I'm just gonna keep doing this. I'm just gonna keep doing this until it finally clicks and we all have this amazing discourse going on where people are really thinking about, you know, was World War One justified? If World War Two was an extension of World War One, then was World War Two justified? I mean, basically both, again, tying back to World War One, you know, just as like a psyop, right? Until Ficchetti's got the dope, you know, it's all in his lectures, which I need to read again. Oh gosh, I need to read up on those again, right? And then the Civil War, the Fenians. I mean, Robert Key on Irish history. It gets no better than that, right? So we're just gonna keep putting this stuff out every year or so, or 6 months, or whenever. And even if I get one listener, that's one person whose ears I have touched.